everyone. I'm Debbi Mack, and with me is F.R. Jameson, and we get together once a month to talk about film noir. And
We
this
do.
one is going to be from England, Brighton Rock. Brighton Rock. What year was that? Did that come out?
1947?
That's right. Okay, it
Yeah.
was a 40s movie. Yeah. So,
Well, before I
interesting
do my
movie.
before I do my traditional synopsis, can I just ask you, how did your version end?
My version ended with the record on the player on the gramophone and the needle skipping over "I love
Right.
you, I love you."
Yes, that
Was
that
there an
is how
alternate ending?
well, that's how my version ended. And I thought that was the ending of the film, which differs somewhat from the ending of the book. And I
Oh,
read that they did film the ending of the book where he goes home and listens to the record and sort of the true evil of Pinky is revealed to her eyes. But the British censor demanded they cut it. And I'm not entirely sure what the issue would have been,
huh.
because it's not like it's incredibly violent or anything like that. But
No, it's just
in the
a
writing, the reading I did, it suggested that the original version had gone out internationally. Which they were
hmm.
thinking, hang on, us American viewers seeing a completely different ending to this film?
No, no, we want the happy ending here. You
Yeah.
know, we want her to be blissfully unaware. Maybe, it leaves it really open. I mean, at some point somebody might move the needle, but or she might choose never to move the needle and like never to know the truth. And
Yeah.
she's the kind of person who would do that. She'd let it
Yes.
skip away. I love you, I love you, I love you. Yeah, I love you too, no matter what you've done.
Yes.
Uh,
Well, just to say what the plot of Brighton Rock is, we're in Brighton. It is, I think it is post-war. The book is pre-war, but I think this is post-war. And there's a criminal gang run by terrifying 17-year-old Pinky Brown, who's
uh-huh.
Richard Attenborough. He, some of his associates have been written about in the paper and given a hard time by this journalist who's now arrived in town. And it's a thing that really used to happen of a journalist would arrive at a seaside town, and if you spotted him and said a particular sentence, he would give you £10. So he's there for that. It's a sort of newspaper gimmick. But anyway, Pinky catches up with him and kills him in a ghost train on the pier. Um, thing is, what gets Pinky here, much like Nixon, is it's the cover up for the crime. So this journalist is supposed to leave cards throughout Brighton throughout the day. And if you find a card, you get 10 bob, which I guess is about 50 pence. Yeah, I don't have a translate
I
that,
was
but it's not.
wondering what that was. A
Yeah.
lot of
I,
times, they talk about the guineas and the bob, and
oh,
I was like, I never looked it up.
even I get lost in the old money in this country. But there's, so one of his associates goes around and continues leaving the cards. But one of the places he leaves the cards is in a cafe, a nice silver service cafe with waitresses. And the waitress there has a good memory for faces. She's the same age as Pinky. They're both 17. She has a good memory of faces and knows it's not the journalist who left the card. So Pinky sort of takes her out and becomes her boyfriend and then eventually becomes her husband. All the sort of because a wife can't testify as her husband. In the background, there is a medium, a psychic, who saw the journalist before he died, and even though she's a bit of a crackpot, is now hunting down Pinky and is sure it's him. So she's in the background. Um, Pinky gets married to the waitress, but he's a paranoid sort, and so decides he's going to kill the waitress rather than risk her falling out of love with him and start testifying against him. But this particular act so revolts the other members of his gang that they help turn him into the police, and he's tracked down to Brighton Pier and falls to his death. The end. Apart from the fact the waitress, at one point in the in a rather chilling scene in the film, people didn't have record players as much, but he records his voice into vinyl with her listening outside the soundproof booth and says, like, you want me to tell you I love you, but I hate you. And
Hmm.
then she puts the record on at the end, and he says, you want me to tell you I love you? Then it skips, and he goes, I love you, I love you, I love you. That's how the film ends.
It's definitely very noir. Downbeat is all get out, and I've
Yes.
never been so happy to see a bad guy get what he deserved. What a little shit that guy was.
Yes. Yeah. It's his stillness is what gets you that betrayal. He's often just very, very still, looking
Hmm.
malicious at the center of the frame. You don't know
Yeah,
what he's about to do next.
exactly.
Yeah.
He had this amazing look, just all emotion just drained from his expression,
Yeah.
just a stare, just
Yeah.
a frightening, uh, completely without empathy stare.
Yes.
Right. So yeah, a true psychopath,
Yeah.
really.
And it's fascinating given how fluffy Richard Attenborough's image was in later life for the sort of the very,
Yes,
I literally played Santa Claus.
yes, I remember
Yeah, that
in that
he
remake.
there are other films where he does this kind of role, and he's very good at it. Yeah,
Yes, he is. He's an
if you see
extremely
Ten
good
Millington,
actor.
if you see Ten Millington Place, where he's John Christie, the serial killer, he's incredibly good in that.
Oh wow.
And there's a film called Seance on a Wet Afternoon where he is actually his wife in the film is the kind of the true malignant presence, but he's constantly helping her. And so he's a
Hmm.
bit kinder in that. But there is a scene where he's clamping chloroform over a teenage girl's mouth, right, and going, "Don't worry, it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay." Which is utterly chilling.
Yeah, it's all going to be okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. One of the things I was wondering was how many of the actors would a British citizen at the time recognize, like, oh, I know that guy, I've seen him before, whereas an
yeah,
American might go, no clue, never seen these people.
yes, yeah. I mean, there would be. I mean, William Hartnell is his pre Doctor Who playing Heavy
Hmm.
Days, and he does show up in a lot of British films. How many of them would have travelled across the Atlantic? I don't know, but I mean, he was. I read a book about Noel Coward, and Noel Coward directed In Which We Serve with David Lean, which is Richard Attenborough's first film. And that did cross the Atlantic, although Noel Coward had taken great pleasure in firing William Hartnell from that for showing up late to rehearsal.
Doctor, shame on you. Of all people to
So
be
yeah,
aware of time.
yes. I mean, I think that Richard Attenborough at this point was very, and I mean, he's very young, so I don't think he's particularly
Yeah,
known for anything.
yeah.
But I
Wow.
mean, it was a big kind of calling card performance to show what he can do.
Absolutely. It's an
Yeah.
amazing performance. It really is. Um,
Did you
I've
like? Did you like? I can't. I've completely blanked on her name, but the waitress, whose name is Rose Carol Marsh. Did you like her more this time round? You said you.
uh I I can't really say that I liked her. I I I guess I was prepared for her, you know. I was like,
Mm,
okay, so she's an innocent and falls hard for this guy based on I don't know what exactly. I'm trying to figure her out still. I mean, it's like, why would you
I
fall for this guy? You just met him. He's a stranger in a restaurant.
yeah.
It
We
just
don't
struck me as
seem to
incredibly
have.
naive.
Yeah, incredibly naive, but we don't seem to see any family for her or real friends. And
Hmm.
I kind of, my interpretation was she was just incredibly affection starved.
Yeah,
And
that's a
so,
good interpretation,
yeah,
actually.
anyone who shows interest in her at
Would
that
be
point, yeah,
welcome. Yeah,
yeah,
that sounds pretty that okay,
yeah,
that I can believe.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, she gets married, no family there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Ada, the medium, later says to her, you need to go back home, but there's no indication what that means. Ada
exactly.
doesn't know her before this, so she doesn't know
Exactly.
what her family is
Yeah, we don't know where she came from, what
like. No,
situation she grew up in.
yeah,
And it's interesting that she turned to the church at the end. Perhaps she grew up in an orphanage, for all we know.
yes, yeah,
Hmm,
yeah.
it's interesting.
She's obviously quite really, devout. So maybe she did grow up in a Catholic orphanage, and that's how we read this. But I think she's just someone desperate to be noticed, desperate to be loved,
Yeah, yeah.
and Pinky giving a
Wow.
facsimile of that.
Given just, yeah, just emotions
Yeah,
and everything else.
yeah,
Wow. Yeah, I have to say I did not hate her outright. The way I didn't feel horrible negative emotions. I felt nothing pretty much but pity. It's like,
yeah,
oh, it's a pity you can't see what an idiot and what a psycho this guy is. He's out of control. He's doing all these wild things. And one thing that got me was the way he would use the string. It was
yeah,
like at the beginning, you see him doing that kind of cat's cradle thing or whatever it is. And
yeah,
then later in the film, he's doing it like frantically.
yeah.
You can tell at that point the pressure is building on him.
And he keeps pulling it incredibly taut. Is incredibly. It's not like a loose playing around. He pulls it really tight,
Yeah, yeah,
as if it's just holding him back. This thin piece of string.
exactly.
It
Yeah.
could snap at any moment.
Like a string version of a stress ball. Instead of
Yeah.
squeezing it to death, he just tightens it.
Yes.
Pretends it's going around somebody's neck, no doubt.
Yeah. Yes.
He's the kind of person. Not nice. I did notice the interest. I had forgotten about the opening with the little explanation about between the
Oh yeah.
wars, Brighton could be really rough, but the
Yeah.
police stepped in and changed all that. Now
Yeah.
everything's wonderful. I was like, oh, really? Is everything wonderful in Brighton now?
Yeah. So I guess it is set before the war, but I think the whole
Between, yeah.
raise the gangs thing was a thing post-war. So it
Mm,
kind of feeds into that. There was some gangs that Brighton before the war, but then the specific kind of gangs you have there, where there's attacking each other with razors at racetracks. I think that's a post-war phenomenon, not a pre-war phenomenon.
hmm And I think
In,
post-war, I think of actually the Who and Quadrophenia,
yeah,
the mods
I
and the
went.
rockers.
Yes, yes, for the 1960s. Yes,
The 60s, yes.
yeah. I went to Brighton earlier this year, and so I reckon. I mean, the outdoor shots are all filmed in Brighton. So he's coming
I
down
was
when he's
wondering
coming
about
down.
that.
Yeah, the journalist coming down from the train station and running. He's running to that. That's all heading from the train station to the beachfront.
Very
Um,
cool.
yeah, and I thought it does have a good sense of place. You kind of believe you're in this small town, and
It does, very
yeah,
much so. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, you get a real sense of the smallness of the place because
yeah,
there's a lot of talk around. Everybody's talking about, oh, everybody knows about this and that and the other.
yeah,
And yeah, so if you're a stranger, you would be noticed maybe.
yeah,
And oh, I love Ida. I always
yeah,
loved Ida, and I just
yeah,
loved her even more this time. It's like she just keeps going at it, no matter how dangerous it could get for her. She keeps going at it,
yeah.
and I really admire her determination as
Yes.
a character.
I like a self belief that when she hears that the journalist dies and she's in a bar with a couple of cronies whose names I don't know if the film ever tells us what their names are, and she just writes random letters down on
Yeah.
the beer and then tries to interpret them.
hmm
Best of her, the best of her ability. And then because there were
Yeah.
two L's in it that she couldn't interpret earlier, she later determines they meant kill. It's kind of
Sure, why not?
yeah, yeah,
It wasn't suicide, it was kill. It was
yeah,
murder.
yeah.
Something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a really interesting way to do detective work, but
Yes.
it got her started.
There's the great scene on the pier where Pinky and Rose are talking to each other, and there's a show going on in front of them.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, she's saying about this woman, she's they keep coming, and then they
She
realise that
has this
one of the
laugh.
performances, Ada, who's looking straight at them.
And then she starts laughing. That laugh, I
Mm.
love. I was just
Yes.
laughing with her. I mean, what an infectious laugh. And at the same time, just so wild and inappropriate, like,
Yeah.
but it's so cool. It's so awesome. I loved it. I mean, it's like it
Yes.
made me love her as a character. And and everything about her, she was awesome. Who
Yeah.
was the actress who played her?
It was is it Hermione Bradley? Is that her name? No, Hermione Badley.
Badly. Yeah, right. I remember
Yeah.
now.
Who
Yes,
Graham
wonderful.
Greene apparently thought she was too theatrical in the role, but I think it works very
I thought
well.
she
I
was
think you
perfect.
need that bigness to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's not Miss Marple. She's not this dowdy little woman peering around corners. She's charming. She
Hmm.
was Ellen the maidservant in Mary Poppins.
Hmm.
I remember her from Mary Poppins. I see if I've ever seen anything else. She was in Bewitched, apparently, the sitcom, Batman,
Oh
Wonder
yeah?
Woman.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
it's not a bad career.
Not bad. Yeah. Well, she had a remarkable part in this movie, I'll say that.
Yes, yes. And
Yeah.
the other main of the sort of four leads is William Hartnell, who we've already touched upon.
Oh yeah.
And much like Richard Attenborough later had this very fluffy image. I mean, he's easily one of the least fluffy of the Doctors, but he's still Doctor Who.
He's still the doctor. Yeah.
Yeah,
He was still the grandfather of
yeah, yeah.
Susan, so to speak.
I
I,
mean, if he hadn't been that, he'd be one of those guys who sort of look at old British films and go, "This man again." See, I keep seeing him and stuff.
that's interesting. That's
Yeah.
really interesting. Funny how that one role made a difference.
Yes. Yeah.
And in such a great show, one that has lasted,
Yes.
stopped, but then come back.
Yeah.
It's remarkable. To me, I think it's just
Yeah.
wonderful. Um, yeah, I love him as this character who is kind of like Pinky's mentor, but he's working for him. That's the
Yeah.
thing that gets me. He's working for Pinky, yet he's kind of like a steadying influence in a sense.
Yeah. And I even buy his kind of burst of conscience at the end.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
He has actually said to Picky, "Oh, no, we're going to leave Rose alone, mate. Don't worry about, I can do anything with her. He's mad about you. Don't worry about that." And,
Yeah.
yeah, his kind of realization he is going to kill Rose after all. It's kind of like this kind of, he doesn't let it just lie. And I
Yeah.
believe that kind of turn of events that, the kid is now gone too far.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like he almost represents kind of like an old style honor among thieves, if there
Mm-hmm.
is any. To the
Yeah.
extent there is any honor among thieves, there's a line
Yes.
he won't cross.
Yeah. Well,
So he's
in the gang, I mean, they're all older than Pinky. So there's having name I'm
mhm.
not going to remember, but the one who actually leaves the card in the cafe and who Pinky determines to get rid of. But he does it first. First by going to see an Italian gangster in Brighton whose name sounds like Corleone in the when they say it. And I
Yes.
had to look it up, going, seriously called Corleone. But it's not quite, it's not spelt the same way.
Yeah.
Like,
Coleone,
like a,
something like that.
yeah, it's really, yeah. And so he changes again, but then that fails, that attempt. It will just end Pinky having a scar on his face. And he sort of murders um, murders this guy in the guest house later, but he's part of the criminal gang, but he's clearly so far out of his depth in Pinky's world that
Hmm.
he's clearly a man who's fallen into this way of life at some point 30, 40 years ago, and now has no idea what he's doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really.
And it's kind
Yeah.
of like putting William Hartnell look in his face. And it's the same actually with the solicitor, the crooked solicitor who witnesses that murder. He's also
Hmm.
an older man who doesn't really fit in anymore with
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. He was a very interesting character. I love the way
yes,
they introduced him coming in and having the Shakespeare quote.
yeah. We
It
watched
tells you about him.
we watched the Bogart film, the one where he's the screenwriter.
Oh yeah. In a
What's going
lonely place.
Yeah, that's it. What's going on in my memory today? But there's his best friend in that comes in quoting Shakespeare.
Mm. Hmm.
So it must have
Yeah,
been
that's right.
something in the air. They're much just well, I think in a lonely place is 3 years after that, so it's possible the maker saw it, but I think the tradition of the travelling actor, the
Hmm.
even if they are technically a solicitor.
Mm. Let's see. I'm looking at my notes. There were all sorts of things I noticed about, like you said, the setting was very evocative. I just felt like, the town of Brighton.
Do you know what Brighton Rock is, by the way?
What
That's the
is
other thing that
Brighton
struck me.
Rock? Is it like a beach resort?
No, it is a stick of rock is it's a long stick of round stick of hard candy. So it'd be all kinds of colours. And you'll buy one. It'll be like, I don't know, there'd be different lengths. They could be like 6 inches, 12 inches, or different thickness. But you'll have this long stick of hard candy, and through the middle of it will be the word Brighton.
Huh.
And that would be Brighton Rock. But any seaside town in the UK, you'd be able to buy
Brighton
this
Rock.
particular thing, and that's one of the things you traditionally eat at the seaside.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's Brighton Rock.
It sounds like your version of saltwater taffy
Yeah,
on the
well,
East
they're much
Coast,
harder.
anyway. When I think of East Coast beach resorts, I think of saltwater taffy,
Yeah,
which I remember from Atlantic City, which
yeah,
I also thought about as I was watching this movie. I thought about how Atlantic City kind of slipped into
yeah,
a gangster phase.
yeah.
Interesting. What is it about
Oh,
beach resorts?
well, they are. Certainly. Certainly when you're on a small island like I am, you have them all around. They were back in the day, back at this time. Certainly, most people didn't travel overseas for their holidays,
That's
so
right.
you'd go to Brighton or Margate or Blackpool or Skegness or wherever. All these sort of, and so, yeah, they'd be huge businesses.
Hmm.
You'd have the pier. And I went to Brighton earlier this year and did actually go on the ghost train, although it's clearly a different ghost train. And there was no bit, fortunately, in the middle of it that seemed to have open water below that you could just topple out. It was very enclosed.
I wondered about that. Gee, that was a convenient dumping place.
Yeah, I don't think this will meet health and safety requirements these days.
Not since Pinky left town.
Yes, yeah.
Oh God.
And it also doesn't really. The ghost trains, you're all inside where things are screaming at you and so on. Suddenly being outside with sea below you kind of takes you out of the whole being haunted thing.
Oh boy. So what's worse, being on a ride with Pinky or on a oh what the heck the Ferris wheel with Orson Welles, obviously
Yes,
Pinky.
yeah.
You don't want to be on a ride with Pinky. Orson Welles might be okay. He'll just
or
give you a
or
speech and leave you.
being the old man having to crawl under the merry-go-round at the end of Strangers on the Train.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Violent. Oh yes, indeed. Um, oh, there was another part, the part where Fred was running. I thought it was
Yeah.
a pretty cool chase scene
Yes.
there, toward the beginning, as they're going after Fred, he's running, stuff is getting in the way, there are
Yeah.
obstacles, he's going down this road, that road, this street, this alley. And it made me think of something that I had written down, and now I can't remember, and now I can't find it, of course. Well, I just liked
That
it. I
was
thought it was done really well.
yeah, that's generally done outdoors in Brighton. You're
Oh, it reminded me of, I'm sorry.
seeing the odd shot of people stopped and staring at them doing it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That was really good.
Yeah.
Um, I'm trying to think. I'll have to look at DOA again because that's what it reminded me of. It reminded me of Edmund O'Brien's run in
Hmm.
DOA. He gets this diagnosis and he starts running. He just starts
Yes.
running and running as if he can run away from it. And that's the kind of desperation this guy radiated. I thought that was good.
Yeah.
And it was also well filmed, just really
Yes.
good. So it's interesting because right after watching this, I watched a movie on TCM called Black Gravel.
Okay.
And it's a an undiscovered movie, apparently a movie that was suppressed for a long time, and also parts of it cut out. It's a German movie. Parts of it
Hmm.
were cut out because they were considered anti-Semitic, when actually what was being done was try to make a point about
Yeah.
anti-Semitism. So
Hmm.
they added the parts back in that they could find and some other stuff that got cut out.
Okay.
And Eddie Muller, who introduced the movie as usual, said it was
Yeah.
one of the bleakest noirs he'd ever seen, or words to that effect.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, I had to think, what's bleaker, this movie or the one that I watched before it? This has a pretty bleak ending.
Yes.
And but that German movie did have quite the bleak ending.
Yeah.
Very bleak. But it's not one I would recommend for us to discuss simply because I don't know if it's available to you.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it was very interesting to watch both of those movies and think about just how bleak a noir can get.
Yes. Yeah.
And in what ways, there's a bleakness to the idea that she's just going to listen to that record or maybe, believe what she's heard and go no further. There's a kind of bleakness there, but there's also
Yeah.
there's a bleakness when I won't say it because the ending is just
Yeah.
kind of a
I
gut
think in this
wrencher.
one, I mean, I think it's an attempt to give a happy ending of sorts,
Hmm.
but um,
Yeah.
having seen everything before that and having seen him in the booth and what he really thinks, I think that the ending comes across as just cruel that she's left in this delusion. Now,
Yes.
whether an ending, if they really did film it, of her kind of collapsing because she hears what Pinky really feels about her and is confronting how horrible he is, whether that seems when you see it in context even more of a downer, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't think you necessarily would ever have come out of this going, skipping your step, going, that was a that all tied up neatly, and yeah, good for
Yeah.
her and her delusions.
Yes, that may she live happily ever after with her delusions, whatever.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Oh
And
my.
given he'd tried to kill her the night before,
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's kind of like, yeah, you shoot yourself and then come back and do it too. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay. That's not crazy. Nothing crazy about that. Ah,
Suicide pacts do happen, and I'm always a bit
yeah.
fascinated about how you raise this and get the argument through that we need to do this. But yeah,
Yeah.
I was kind of self-fortunate I've never been in that position, but it just seems, an incredible level of, you know, commitment to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a place where I'd want to go.
No, no.
Oh, your meeting will end in 10 minutes. Is that a fact? Oh, okay,
Oh,
Zoom.
yeah.
Duly
I
noted.
haven't had that alert yet. Have you seen the remake?
No, I have not.
No, I haven't either. It
I'm just
just feels a bit
afraid it won't.
sacrilegious.
Yeah. It just seems like you shouldn't remake what was already perfect or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, they do, strangely enough.
But I don't think it'd be like Gus Van Sant's Psycho, where you kind of
Hmm.
the absolute zenith of what is the point of this. So I mean, it's kind of like be like having a Maltese Falcon remake. And I appreciate the Maltese
Yeah.
Falcon is a remake of two other films, but
Yes,
after that, everyone just stopped trying to do it.
exactly.
Yeah,
You did it right on the third try. Three was the charm.
yeah,
Don't go it to take it any farther. Although
yes.
interestingly enough, they did make a TV series called Monsieur Spade about
So,
Sam Spade years after the Maltese Falcon, which gets mentioned obliquely throughout.
okay.
Mentions are made of a certain Miss Wonderly or Bridget O'Shaughnessy or whatever her name is.
Yeah.
And yeah, he even goes through the Flitcraft parable. And I was like, oh, you went there, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. He tells this other woman about the Flitcraft parable, about telling it to this other woman.
Okay.
I was just like, okay, awesome. You brought in Mr. Flitcraft. Hmm.
Yeah,
I
I
have a
mean,
real thing about that little story.
yes.
I've written a whole thing about Mrs. Flitcraft that I have yet to unleash on the world.
You should do it.
My devious nature comes out.
Yeah. Yes.
But hey, why would I watch these movies if I weren't the tiniest bit devious or
Yes.
fascinated with
Yes.
the devious?
So you have any final points to make about Brighton Rock? Anyway?
Um, I'm trying to think. I I thought the minor characters were all interesting, and
Mm-hmm.
the look of the place was very industrial, kind of at times, which kind of
Mm-hmm.
fed into the whole noir look.
Yeah.
That was really where it got noirish, kind of like the dark night scenes. I noticed one in particular with the train running in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Seemed very kind of like working class slash industrial
Yeah.
feel to it, which was interesting, being that they're at a beach resort. But there's a kind of a patina of grime sometimes that you sense in the look of the place,
Yeah.
as if sand is blowing, you know.
Yeah.
It's a little
You
bit
do have
dusty.
corners of it that's got very sort of narrow streets and very rickety old streets. And yeah,
Yeah,
that kind of feeds into that kind of, there are a lot of dark alleyways and
dark alleyways. Yes, dark and
yeah,
twisted alleys,
yeah,
as
it's
good
dark and
as it
twisted
were.
alleys.
And that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah.
So let's see. I was thinking, I was just watching LA Confidential and wondering if that would come within our
Yeah, I love LA
discussion.
Confidential. You can watch that next month if you want.
That'd be cool. That'd be great
Yeah.
because I
A
would
much
love to
more
look at
recent
the
film.
script for that one too.
Yes. Yes.
Because I was just watching that and I was just like amazed at the story. I was like, I never really fully appreciated this story so much. Every time I see it, I see something different.
Yeah.
So that'd be a good one to discuss next time.
Yes, absolutely.
LA Confidential, a wonderful Christmas movie.
Yes. There is a scene at Christmas, so
It does, yeah. There is a
yeah.
Christmas scene, so technically, like Die Hard, it's a Christmas movie.
Well, Die Hard's all set at Christmas, but you know, that's not the sort of movie
Well, yeah, I know, I
dresses around.
know. Anytime Christmas ornaments appear in a movie, to me, that makes it a Christmas movie. If there's a significant scene during Christmas, it's a
Yes.
Christmas movie. Or it could be, possibly.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's always, as always, it's been a pleasure to have this
So yes,
discussion.
absolutely.
And I hope everyone listening or watching has also been enjoying the discussion. Someday I'll learn to talk. If you liked it, please leave a review on your favorite podcast channel or podcast app or whatever it's called. And until next time, we'll be seeing you. Go watch something cool at the movies. Take care and talk to you later.
See you later. Bye bye.
Bye bye.